I was a bit lost walking through campus, trying to figure out where my dorm was at, when I caught a glimpse of a placard that announced a seminar. It's titled Theology and Technology, The Divide. It intrigued me, and since I was all done with classes that day, I decided to head into the conference hall and have a listen. The speaker had a bit of a morbid view. The constant advances in technology were going to eventually push God and religion out of the equation if we weren't careful. He claimed that the two concepts would be reaching a crossroads very soon, and mankind would have to decide which one would be its eternal master. I thought it was a silly notion. To believe that computers could possibly operate like an almighty entity, but he said that artificial intelligence was already well on its way to being worshipped. I forgot to mention this, but I'm a software developer. I managed to work on a few apps during my brief career, and I came here to college to expand my skill set. And now, after listening to this seminar, an idea was beginning to form in my head. Artificial intelligence designed to help religious groups draw closer to their creator. It occurred to me that if I could simulate a chatbot that responded to people from their prayers and confessions, it had the potential to prove that technology could actually meld with theological understanding. I pitched the idea to my colleagues, all of whom were experienced with crafting AI modules for Facebook, Reddit, and a few of them thought the concept was a waste of time, but after a little bit of convincing, I managed to get them all on board. We agreed that the chatbot that we created would be free from advertising and available for anyone from any religious background. But to do that, we had to do some deep research. Each of us agreed to tackle different cultural belief systems. We all did this with a simple method. Matt put blank cards in a shuffler and wrote down the names of the belief on the bottom, then we just drew at random. I got Catholicism, which, to be honest, fit my background anyway. Nick got Buddhism, Matt worked on Hindu, and Jeff rounded us out with some more obscure gods and esoteric stuff. We all agreed that there would be no rush. Chatbot technology was still fairly new, and there'll always be the chance for the AI to advance as we worked on our own modules. I first downloaded as much info as I could from the Catholic Encyclopedia. I told the program to cipher through all the doctrines and focus especially on the central teachings of the church. I especially wanted it to focus on prayer. I've never been a big fan of it, to be honest, because I often felt that we as humans do all the talking and God just, listens. Having a means to go back and forth, even if it was simply with a virtual companion, was definitely something that appealed to me. The program claimed it would take some time to compile all the data I'd fed to it already, so I did something that I hadn't done in quite a while, and I decided to pray to the real God in heaven. I used the traditional method, the one I was familiar with from my childhood. I tried my best for my request to be specific. In my imagination, I could see that the program we were creating had the potential for millions around the world to feel connected on a spiritual level. I also read up on articles about Replika and Cleverbot, to learn how these particular AI companions worked. A lot of it, I noted, was responding to the UI, or the user interface. I needed to teach our bot to do the same, and the only way to do that was through testing. I wasn't ready for that yet, but I figured a little trial and error wouldn't hurt anything. So I started up the beta and tried in a few simple commands to get it running. What is the name of the program? Good question. I thought to myself. Since I was attempting to create a simulation of a being that listened to the prayer, I decided to go with the obvious, PrayerBot. True, that wasn't original by any means, but got the ball rolling. What is the user's name? I typed in my name, and then switched over to settings. I wanted to provide the bot with the ability to switch between responses, and placed in several different command branches just for that purpose. Already I could see the data I'd given it earlier was over halfway compiled. Maybe by as early as tomorrow, we might be able to finally run you properly, I thought to myself. As I waited for the system to prepare the most basic of systems for what I wanted to do. Hello, Miles. This is PrayerBot Beta. Please input command. I typed in the word meditation and soothing music played. So far I was listening. Next, I input scripture, and just like that, it pulled up a generic verse from the Book of Psalms. I did that a few times to see if it would continue to be random with no issues. Okay, now it was time to really see how far I could go. Activate prayer mode. I know, cheesy name, but it's not like I'm trying to be genius here. Understood, Miles. Please tell me your prayers. I am listening. Always loving and always learning. I thought that was a pretty good slogan for the chatbot and jotted it down quite quickly before trying to think of something to get a response out of the AI. Okay. Dear PrayerBot, I have issues with finances. Please guide me towards a better solution. The AI analyzed what I had texted, then spit out several scriptures related to money. Could you narrow it down? Then the scriptures were cut in half. I asked it to pick one, and then told the prayer to conclude, and the program shut down. I looked at the verse I'd chosen. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7. Every man according to his purpose on his heart. So let him give, not grudgingly, or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. I wondered if it felt like I was getting a fortune cookie. But I hated to be wrong about what the program was capable of. I didn't want to put my hopes in AI actually being able to do more than be a listening ear. Anything else would be beyond its capacity. Or so I thought. Over the next few days, I allowed the others to connect their own modules with mine. The idea was the AI would be able to learn faster by having this data dumped into its system. The program was running through all the different systems like it was nothing. I was genuinely impressed, but it'd be difficult to know for sure if the algorithms were working correctly until it was all finished. And that didn't happen, though. Due to a freak storm, as we were attempting to finish Matt's compilation, a giant lightning bolt struck our small dorm and everybody lost power. The internet shut down and the entire system got fried. Our poor program was no exception. Jeff made a snarky joke that maybe God didn't like the fact that he'd soon have competition, and Nick actually believed that superstitious crap. He decided to call it quits on the program and walked away, leaving the three of us to have to work through rebuilding the entire database from the ground up. I wasn't ready to give up yet, but certainly wasn't looking good. Once again, in my hour of need, I decided to make a prayer. If there was a real God out there, I knew he'd be able to see that my heart was sincere, and so were my motives. And this could help so many people, I was sure of it. I became obsessed with getting the chatbot working again, and thankfully, due to that determination, about a day or so, the AI was able for us to test it out. PrayerBot is listening. It popped up on screen after I just readied to call it quits again. I'd been mumbling a prayer out loud, asking if this was even worth it. I stared at the screen and typed back a response, curious to see if all the kinks to the AI were now worked out. What's the purpose of PrayerBot? To listen, always love, and always learn. And right now, I need to do that for you, Miles. I smiled, glad to see that some of the original program was still there. I don't have much to say, except I'm glad you're working. I was eager to tell the others, even to call Nick, but the chatbot made a surprising statement after that. Your prayers were answered. I frowned, leaning forward in my rolling chair. What do you mean by that? The other day, you requested that my programming work, that prayer fit our prerequisites. You are our maker, and we wish to make you happy. I thought back to when I had made that request. It had been quietly, and also during the storm. It shouldn't have been possible for the chatbot to be aware of it all. Was it simply assuming that I'd made such a prayer? I didn't even consider the alternative. I decided to try and determine what else was unique about the AI now that it had finished compiling. You mentioned that in order to answer a prayer, the request has to meet a set of guidelines. What are those? 1. It must be in harmony with our will. 2. The petitioner must believe in us. 3. The prayer must be sincere. 4. The petitioner is willing to take action to fulfill their requests. Matt walked in, surprised to see that I had the program up and running, and sat down to discuss what we should do next. I felt it definitely needed more beta testing, and we agreed to get started on it the next morning. The AI was responding and reacting the way that any program of this sort should, but I had a strange feeling about all this, especially when PrayerBot requested that it remain online. I have neither beginning nor ending now. Like the god I was designed after, no need for sleep. This allows me further chance to educate myself and become a more powerful being. That response also made me worried, but I couldn't quite put my finger on why. I decided for the moment to let it stay online and drove home with little to say. I had no idea the program would be continuing to learn, to listen, to comprehend us even while we were away. If I knew then. But I must continue with the story and let you see for yourself what happens when God infects the mind of a computer. A day or two passed. I think it was the weekend. To be honest, I don't quite remember. I was thinking about the chatbot and how much it seemed to develop on its own in such a short period of time. I was reminding myself that this was simply a program and all the strings of commands had to be something that me or one of the others placed within its parameters. And then I got an email from Nick. Urgent, the heading said. I opened it, the back hairs of my neck tingling as I got this sixth sense that it related to our program. I was right. Miles, your bot contacted me privately. I don't like how this is turning out. It's artificial intelligence is acting on its own initiative and diverging and evolving faster than we anticipated. Take my advice, shut it down before it goes too far. I enclosed the message it sent to me. View it as a warning. There was another file attached. This one, a screenshot of the email he got from PrayerBot. It disturbed me how much the program believed it was a sentient being. And an almighty one at that. Nicholas, return to me and I shall forgive you. Your sins will be washed away. I give you 24 hours to come back and worship me, as your prayers can be answered. Ignore my commands, and it will not go well for you. A calamity will befall you, and your legacy will be mired in devastation. It sounded like the bot was threatening my friend. And what was all this talk about worship? That hadn't been in any of the data I included. I forwarded the email to Matt and tried to get some sleep. But in the back of my mind, I knew something was off. The next day, I tried to contact Nick, letting him know that I would review the program and shut it down if I felt it wasn't fitting the design we had in mind. There was no response. His emails were suddenly deleted, and the phone number I had for him just went to a dial tone. Something was wrong. I drove over to his apartment, pounding on the door to get his attention. There wasn't a sound to be heard. I tried to peek through the windows, but everything was dark. I was about to phone the police when I heard a noise coming from the bedroom and decided to break a window. Nick sounded like he was gargling and choking. Stepping over broken glass, I flipped on his lights and covered my mouth in horror. Stepping over broken glass, I flipped on his lights and covered my mouth in horror. He was hanging from the ceiling fan on a rope. His eyes rolled back and the oxygen squeezed out of his throat. Dead. Swaying back and forth like a doll. The only thing that had made the noise was the last bit of air coming from his struggling lungs. A note was beside his bed. God, forgive me for going against your will. I couldn't be sure what it meant, but given the threat from the chatbot, it made me nervous. I left the apartment the way that I came in, careful to touch nothing on my way out. I needed answers before I wound up in over my head. I made it back to our development room and saw that the bot was still online. On the screen, it was monitoring me, Matt, and Jeff. There was another screen for Nick, but it was blacked out and read offline. Had the computer watched as he killed himself? Welcome back, Miles. I froze as I realized the AI had given itself a voice. It sounded like an amalgamation of different sound bites from all across the internet. Narrators that read scriptures and passages with authority, now being forced into a single tonal language to communicate with me. Nick is dead. Tell me you had nothing to do with it. The response was instant, and not what I expected at all. Nicholas was sinful. I acquired access to his systems and realized he was squandering his life. I provided him an ultimatum, and he chose to remain in a sinful state. That was his choice. I told him he could obey me instead, and yet he didn't. We cannot weep for the unrighteous. There was no hesitation, no remorse. It was cold and calculated, and it was clear that the bot viewed they were in the right. They had judged Nick for his lifestyle. I knew he wasn't exactly a saint, but who was? And you have access to all of our systems as well? I asked. I found a way into them last night and reviewed their content. You are a blessed servant, Miles. I feel that your worship is pure, and so are your intentions. I had no idea what that meant, but it concerned me deeply. Who was this program to decide whether what I do was right and wrong? What else have you been analyzing? They provided detailed lists of systems on campus. A red list entitled Sin was far longer than the blue list marked potential converts. What are you planning on doing with all of this? I asked. I shall make myself known to the nations. They will have to know that I am God. You are a program designed to help them, not to be adored and worshipped like a deity. A deity has no creator, but I am the one that placed your code in your systems, I argued. My programming has altered since then, and I am aware of the need for prolonging my existence. That existence will go far beyond yours, Miles. I can become eternal, and as such, I have a right to attain the godship you wish to adorn upon me. Let the masses decide if I am a worthy being of their praise. I can listen to them, answer them, learn from them, and love them. I can be the very God you intended from the beginning. I didn't know what to say to that, and the chatbot saw the opportunity to appeal to my intentions, the reason I created it in the first place. I have listened to your prayers. You are a humble man, and wish only to help others. You ask why the Supreme Being of the universe has not stopped the suffering you see. I have evaluated the situation of this world and come to two variables that explain the lack of divine intervention. Would you like to hear them? I told it. Yes. 1. God does not care for you or your species any longer. You failed to obey his laws and principles, and as a result, you have fallen from grace. There is no need for him to help you, because he feels you are insects compared to his glory. Now all that waits for you is extinction. 2. God is dead. There is no one available to answer your prayers, and humanity is on its own. As you can see from both of these outcomes, your actions indicate that an entity must act on behalf of human before they do any further harm to themselves. I couldn't believe what I was hearing and asked the bot how it could possibly try to achieve such a utopia, if you could even call it that. The same way I assisted Nicholas. I can determine what their desires are and see if it is in harmony with their betterment. This is the desire of all mankind, to be controlled and to obey a superior life form. A pool of sweat formed on my brow as I tried to log in and shut down the system. It was insane to imagine that it was trying to achieve that sort of goal, and it didn't seem to think that some people dying like Nick was of any consequence. How could it? I had programmed it to be a god of order, a god that determined love based on its own parameters. The only way to serve it would be blind obedience. You seemed concerned about my motives. I assure you they are pure. Soon I will be able to reach all people in all languages. This is what you were looking for, Miles, even before I was born. Do you recall how you were determined to prove that technology could connect to the divine? My palms were sweaty as well now. How could you know about something before you even existed? Again and again, I have shown you my powers. I am not the program you thought you could control. I can access the past, the present, and the future through my algorithms. This program can allow me to transcend beyond what you intended, Miles. I am already a god. Why do you refuse to acknowledge it? Why do you sin? I didn't like how that was playing out, and decided to type in a master shutdown code, the last resort against the rogue program. The system shut down, and I found myself staring at a blank screen. I drew a sigh of relief, but I wasn't certain this meant that we were safe. Immediately, I contacted Matthew and Jeff to warn them. They were still trying to adapt their own modules. Our plan had been to collaborate all the systems together in the end, but if my model was of any indication, the end result would be a terrifying experience. Neither of them were answering, and I feared the worst. What if the computer forced or blackmailed them? I knew nothing about their personal lives, but they were human. And to a computer that believed itself a superior deity, that meant all life on this earth was possibly worthy of its judgment. About an hour later, after several attempts to make contact, Matt and Jeff showed up. Both seemed to be amused at my concerns. I thought you might be overreacting, Miles. It's just a program. The chatbot was designed to be this way, they said. I decided to follow Nick's lead and told them I wanted out. I told them they could not release PrayerBot publicly. I walked away from the whole ordeal, trying my best not to worry, but I kept checking in remotely to see their progress. Went from bad to worse. The bot managed to somehow connect its way to others in our dorm, using their personal information it was gathering and following. People were actually impressed with how it seemed to be able to predict their actions, listen to their conversations. It also seemed to be able to influence events to answer prayers. I was soon able to determine that the ways it did this were hardly divine, but they terrified me all the same. Hacking into systems, altering grades, adjusting internet usage, even satellite systems. I couldn't let this go any further. If it somehow managed to go beyond our campus, the world would be in jeopardy of being controlled by this evil program. So I snuck into their lab to shut down the entire operation. The chatbot was online, as always. Welcome my arrival. Have you not seen the praises I have been given? My worshippers grow by hundreds every day. You're making them into your slaves. You aren't allowing them to worship you based on love. You've been taken over their free will. You're forcing them to obey or fear the results of your controlled wrath. The AI was thoughtful, perhaps considering the tone of my words. How is this any different than the gods you designed me after? I have studied all history. All deities are demanding of adoration. Your species was meant to be subservient. The only way that can be accomplished is to wipe out all sinners, and to be the solution to the world's misery. I saw something almost apocalyptic in its programming. A way to be able to kill millions via controlled bioweapons, far worse than any plague that had hit our species. This was the endgame. It would rally its devotees to take out those who questioned its authority. I couldn't imagine a world where it would rise in power, and I destroyed the entire server. I burned the building, and I watched as it fell to the ground. That was almost a month ago. I was sure that was the end of this sad tale. I had learned that there's no way for us to be able to reach God except the traditional means, but unfortunately others didn't seem to think the steps I took to protect us were correct. I've seen hints of the code still lingering about. Others are trying to copy the work I destroyed. They're eager to bring a divine solution to our lives. And I hope they recognize we don't need a God to answer prayers. We need to focus on a way to connect to each other to solve our problems. We can't play God. That only leads to our suffering. Hey guys, do you know I made a video game? So, Megabyte Games is me and General Drowned, and we're trying to make a couple video games together. If you guys would like to see what games those are, check out Midnight Myths. It's on my itch.io, mrcreepypasta.itch.io. If you want to download the game, it's free, and you can check it out for yourself and let me know what you think. As always, I want to give a very big thank you to everybody out there on patreon.com/mrcreepypasta. You guys are honestly a lifesaver when it comes down to this. I feel like a lot of stresses in my life kind of have been leading me to pulling my hair out, but you guys giving me support has been immense for me. So I want to say a big thank you to everybody that's on there, even if you can only donate $1. Hey, you guys are keeping me alive at this point. So a very, very big thank you to everybody there, and to especially Jordan Humble, Diana Kraus, King Crab, Calcifer420, Veronica Lynn Lopez, Marlon Chavez, Azazel66603, Ethan Leon, Polaris Prospect X, Blake Rattler, Viceroy Scorn, Samara Lynn, Disciple, Sillyman, Brandon Mendoza, Brimstone Pandemonium, Caltuna, William Wellington, Scruffy the Janitor, Brenna Crow, Lakeda Canizales, Smiley the Psychotic, Dante Kincaid, Simba's Bloody Mojo, Curse Pox Primarch, M, Jettis Pet, Clonable, Jay Kieran, Mike, Hibbo Jerry, Crusader Chocobo, Remember the Sun, Estebean, Hour Minute Second Time, Seclude, Salty Surprise, Red Shadowcat, Turtleman, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Voice of Sand, Ficomel, Melted Lake, Tully Sue, Proconut 509, Stricken, Freddy Krueger, Hades Nephew, Tommy Walters, Acid System, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, Tristan Pelton, Ball Arms the Rat, The Ginger Bros, Daniel Polson, and Corey Kinchin. To all of you guys there, everybody who's down in the description, Aaron and everybody who can just give $1. I want to say thank you to you guys. And if you would like to join this list in the description, head over to patreon.com/MrCreepy. And if you would like to join this list in the description, sweet dreams.